everyone. Welcome back to our second episode on Star Trek Lower Decks and Star Trek the Animated Series from the 70s. But we are covering Season 4, Episode 4 of Lower Decks and Season 1, Episode 4 of Star Trek the Animated Series. I'm Bob in Cascadia. That's Matt in the Southland. We are part of Uncanny Treks. How the hell are you doing tonight, Matt?
Geez, Bob, I didn't know I was going to be taking a trip to the Odyssey here.
Hey-o. That's right. Well, so first up, from the 21st of September this year, Matt, Something Borrowed, Something Green. You want to walk our audience through the plot of this one?
Sure, Bob. So Tendi takes Mariner and T'Lyn to her sister's wedding, while Boimler and Rutherford resolve tensions.
So, Matt, am I correct in saying that so far we've seen Klingon, Borg, Pakled, Ferengi, Romulan, and Orion lower decks?
Yeah, we've seen just about everybody. The Orion lower decks, of course, is what we were introduced to in this episode. Doesn't seem that bad to me. I mean, they're really just inventorying stolen goods, shining up treasure. That's about it. I mean, I think I'd be okay working on, like, a pirate ship.
You think you got plunder duty in hand? Is that what you're telling me?
I could handle plunder duty, Bob. Plunder duty would be right up my alley.
All right. And so, we still have this mysterious death ship. They killed the Klingon lower deckers. They killed the Romulan lower deckers. And now they've killed the Orion lower deckers. Any thoughts on what the mysterious death ship looks like?
I mean, it's smaller than what I originally thought. So, do we know any characters who have escaped on a shuttle at some point?
Yeah, I didn't think this when we saw it in prior appearances, but it does sort of look like a Starfleet shuttle from certain angles.
Yeah, like it's been modified or to some degree.
Yeah, like maybe it assimilated, or maybe one of these evil computers took control of it or something.
Oh, that could be it. That could be it.
Yeah. It also has a little bit the vibe of the monolith from 2001, A Space Odyssey, of course.
Yeah, with the big red piece on the front. So, yeah, I could see that.
They've been teasing as sort of potentially like a big bad for the show for a long time now.
This could be it, folks.
Could be it. Also, it could be the return of Gerardi Borg, as we talked about last episode.
I would like that, or Cisco. Cisco's up there too.
Oh yeah. That was the other thing. It doesn't it sort of look like a Bajoran orb case a little bit?
Oh yeah, Bob, I didn't catch on to that. It's just Cisco trapped inside an orb.
Yeah, wasn't your theory last week mirror Cisco?
Yeah, I said mirror Cisco, but you know what? Now I think it's the legit Cisco. He's just trying to get out of the orb, and it just keeps blowing up ships.
And in fairness, we're still not sure if Mirror Cisco is still alive.
Yeah, thanks, Twitter, or X, or wherever you are.
All right. So, also in this episode, in the subplot, I think T'Lyn probably describes it best when she says, Boimler and Rutherford's emotional closeness is unpleasant, and it is. It's not unpleasant because it has homoerotic overtones, but it totally does have homoerotic overtones. You feel that way too, right? That it's basically Boimler and Rutherford coming out this episode.
Yeah, it reminds me of like the second part of Step Brothers, the movie, when they start working together.
Yeah, that is a good comparison. There's a lot of Will Ferrell, John C. Reilly energy in this duo. I mean, also, they're literally calling a bonsai plant their child. They're literally doing same-sex parenting, right?
Well, they literally both dress up as Mark Twain on the holodeck. I mean,
now that was what saved it for me. Before that, I was like, my God, this is awful. But for a minute, I thought we were having the return of Mark Twain, right? We did meet in a Next Gen 2-part time travel episode. But no, it's just Boimler and Rutherford impersonating him, which is much better than a holodeck Mark Twain. It was great.
Yeah. The whole back and forth with Rutherford this episode, it was different. I haven't really caught on to this energy before. Have you caught on to this energy at all?
How so?
I guess them being kind of, like you mentioned earlier, this kind of that closeness.
Well, he does do the same thing with Tendi, although it seems like more decisively asexual between Tendi and Rutherford,
Right, yeah, this doesn't.
And there's also not I think there have been some episodes where Tendi and Rutherford have had conflict, but I don't think it's been the focus as much as this episode's conflict between Rutherford and Boimler was.
Well, guys, Boimler and Rutherford may be a thing. I'm okay with that.
Yeah, yeah. Would you rather Boimler date Rutherford or would you rather Boimler date Talin?
Probably Rutherford. I think that would be way more interesting.
I don't know. I feel like if they make him date Rutherford, then the two of them are going to be happy, and I don't want Boimler happy. But if they make him date Talin, she could do that breakup we talked about last week, where she realizes that he only wants her so he can have his own Spock, and I think that's pretty profoundly funny.
That's profoundly funny, and at the same time too, I think that her in more of a commanding position of him is going to be better. Hopefully, that's where they'll go, like in Lower Decks season 12 or whatever we get to.
Long may it rain. Long may it rain. Um, so to get to the kind of main event of the Orion wedding that animates this episode, Matt, did you have any particular favorite bits from the Orion wedding?
I mean, no, not really. We've had multiple weddings on this show now. We've had this and the Gorn wedding. So, did you like this or the Gorn wedding better, Bob?
Oh man, I'd forgotten about the Gorn wedding until you brought up. I mean, the Gorn wedding is just like one scene that's kind of cute, right? Of a bunch of Gorn nibbling on Boimler, if I'm remembering right, which is really funny. But you get a lot of gags on this. You get the gags of Tindy playing what a Mariner describes as the murder bug drinking game. We get the revelations that Orion men have, shall we say, an armpit fetish. They're moan heads. Would you describe yourself as a moan head, Matt?
No, I'm not a moan head, Bob. It's not really anything attractive about an armpit. It's there.
Well, I mean, it's not the armpit itself. It's just the pheromones.
The pheromones. Well, I mean, no.
Sorry, the moans. My bad.
Moans,
the moans.
sorry. The moans. Yeah, the moans themselves. No, I think that's gross too.
How about the gag of Mariner getting repeatedly stabbed?
Now, see, I'm okay with this, and I feel like one of the goals of Lower Decks this season is to cause as much pain to the main characters as possible, or visually possible. Because we had Boimler die in the last episode.
Oh yeah,
just blown to hell. Then we've got Mariner getting stabbed multiple times in the same repeated place.
I guess they did sort of do stuff like that with Rutherford's implants last season too.
They've really torn these guys up.
Now, the most important part of the Orion wedding, Matt, can you say daddy-daughter dagger dance 3 times fast?
Daddy-daughter... Shit. I can't even pass dagger. Daddy-daughter dagger dance, daddy-daughter dagger dance, daddy-daughter dagger dance.
All right. A very inauspicious beginning, but a very auspicious finish.
I was struggling at the end to get anything out.
No, you kept it together. It was commendable.
One thing I will say about the Orions I did learn, of course, it seems like the females are much stronger, or at least in this case with her sister.
Yeah, it seems to vary because it seems like the women more or less run the society, but it also seems like, to use the old phrase, the quote unquote Orion slave girls also are sort of like on the bottom of the society.
Yeah. So how does it work out? I don't know. Maybe they just, but I mean, she carried her husband over the threshold at the end, and it was interesting too because it fit in kind of well with our TOS animated series episode we're going to talk about in just a little while. So.
Yeah. Well, to end, Matt, I would also say that I now think Freeman is one of my least favorite captains of all time because she's banned the Twain holodeck program, man. That's not acceptable. Okay, probably still the child from Prodigy and Burnham and Scott Bakula from Enterprise are worse, but still, Freeman's lost a lot of respect from me.
Yeah, and to keep this in perspective, Bob, there's still an Enterprise holodeck program, but not a Mark Twain holodeck program. It's
tragic. Who is your character of the week?
My character of the week, Bob, I'm going to go with Tindy for being basically revealed as Black Widow and having been secretly indoctrinated with all these cool, badass fighting skills. Did
you watch the Black Widow movie?
Yeah, I did.
Okay. I was wondering if there was something specific or if it was, I get the general vibe, but I was wondering if
that is the general vibe. Yeah, it's that she becomes like a child assassin.
Yeah. Okay. So I was going to give it to Lynn for being horny, but ultimately I'm going to have to give it to Kokor. He had a lot of great lines. I'm from Southern Chalnoth. That is a Southern accent. And I am sated. You may inspect the nebula. And he does kill Boney, who I have to say may be the second worst character ever on Lower Decks, and so I'm eternally grateful to Kokor for that.
Who I thought might be one of the cat people, but he's not.
No. He is the Chow Noth who is in a showdown with Freeman over who gets to scan the nebula.
All right, Bob. So let's move on to this animated series cartoon.
Yeah, so 50 years ago, Matt, on the 29th of September 1973, a historically important episode of Star Trek called the Lorelei Signal aired. What's the plot of the Lorelei Signal for our dear listeners?
So, Bob, in the plot of the Lorelei Signal, Uhura summons Chapel to the bridge when all the men are weirdly affected by a signal straight out of the Odyssey.
I just want to point out, for something for all our male listeners to learn, Kirk is really teaching us how to be sexistly dismissive when he just tells Uhura, opinion noted. It's just a model for us all, really.
Just a fantastic person. Fantastic.
Yeah, great acting, great dude, great character, just the total package. So, Matt, I gotta say, I didn't really have Kirk or Spock pegged as having a blonde fetish, but as soon as they start hearing the Lorelei Signal, they're envisioning some blonde chicks.
Well, Bob, Carol Marcus is blonde. All right.
Oh, yeah, I guess you kind of own me on that, don't you?
None of Spock's people are blonde. Like, most Vulcans aren't blonde, right? Mm-hmm. I haven't seen a blonde Vulcan that I'm remember.
Yeah. And the tendency is usually to pair Spock off with women with darker hair, I feel like.
But I'm just going to assume, Bob, that the blonde woman is just a nod to his relationship with Nurse Chapel in Strange New Worlds.
Yeah, that's fair. I guess I'm totally owned on that. Although one could also say that it's not what Kirk and Spock actually want. It's what the Lorelei Signal is, programming them to want. So in that vision of the blonde Vulcan, Matt, we also learned about the Vulcan marriage bongos. How do you feel about Vulcan marriage?
You got to keep that beat, Bob. Keep that beat. Make it slightly racist, I guess, or cultural or something.
Yeah, I feel like there's definitely something, exoticizing and maybe anti-Pacific Islander going on.
Yeah, why are we playing bongos on Vulcan?
Yeah. No, it was a little strange. Another question I had, were the ladies' uniform skirts always this short on the show, or were they really short on this episode?
I had to make sure that that the audience could differentiate between the men and the heroes of the actual episode, Bob.
Fair. So, is it just me, or is it hilarious to imagine Uhura and Chapel as currently portrayed in Strange New Worlds in a remake of this episode?
Oh, I would die if they did a remake of this. That would be awesome.
Yeah, they really should.
Do it. Please do it. I would watch this shit. That would be like the best episode ever.
We've speculated that like Strange New Worlds, it's just going to turn into an original series remake, or like New Adventures in the original series. But no, what it actually needs to do is it needs to turn into an animated series remake. So I do love that Uhura comes down to the surface with the female security team and immediately just starts mowing down the alien women. Just no mercy. It's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, they've got their phasers and they're ready to go. This is what it was a Saturday morning cartoon. You got to have some action, Bob.
Yeah, you do. Presumably they're set to stun, but we don't know that for sure.
Yeah, she's just going to town.
So, Matt, the lesson of this, as is the lesson of so many science fiction stories, is that immortality is terrible, and it turns you into a man-preying vampire. So, why does science fiction hate immortality so much?
Bob, it's because it's something we all think that we want, but it would probably suck in the end.
No, it wouldn't. Man, as a wise person who I believe was my mother told me, only boring people are bored, Matt.
I can't tell if you're being serious or not.
I'm serious. I mean, I'm joking,
gotcha.
but I do mean it. Yeah. No,
gotcha. Okay, gotcha. Yeah. Well, I don't know, Bob. I feel like it would be sponsored by some kind of corporation, and it would not be as cool as we think it would be.
Well, yeah. Obviously, anything developed in our current hell society is going to be hellish. But
you can have 20 more years. All you have to do is like tattoo Pepsi on your forehead.
Yeah. You just got to work for our corporation at substandard wages for 18 of them.
Exactly. That's what will happen.
Yeah.
You will become our indentured servant.
Yes. So, did you pick up on what was historic about this episode, Matt?
So, I'm going to assume this is the first time we actually see Uhura in command of the Enterprise.
Yeah, it is. It is. And also by extension, it's the first time we see an African, or I guess technically, well, the actress is an African American, but the character is an African. So it's the first time we see an African in charge of a starship, and it's the first time we see a woman in charge of the starship.
I mean, you don't count that Strange New Worlds episode where she just like tells somebody what to do in front of the captain and everybody got mad?
No, because we're going first time in our chronology, not in their chronology. I guess I should ask before the character of the week, are you regretting your decision to go along with my suggestion to watch the 70s Star Trek?
No, I'm okay, Bob, but I am going to pause here for a moment and allow our audience to witness the half-minute musical interlude by Scotty.
Night weires dir yon overwin yon dion bris yon tek of bro o bovras adalelas Aichiono Agwen and Godrod Isaac Anitro.
Mr. Scott, as senior lieutenant, I'm taking responsibility for the safety of this ship.
Very thoughtful of you, love.
Oh, I can't believe I forgot the half-minute musical interlude by Scotty. I'm a terrible host. I'm so sorry.
I will allow all of you to listen to it and experience it at your own leisure here. So,
Matt, aren't you a little worried they're going to hit us with a copyright strike over that?
I don't think they're coming after us for this, Bob. I really don't. And if that's what makes me go down, Scotty's interlude in a cartoon version of Star Trek,
Then it was worth it.
it's so worth it. All right, Bob, my character of the week.
You made a point about the Scotty musical interlude, that it's like a variety show. And I think you kind of hit on something that's like true of, I think, both the 60s Star Trek show and the 70s cartoon, that there is a little bit of a variety show element to it, right? Like a lot of TV in the 50s and the 60s and the 70s was a variety show. It definitely has some influence on the narrative, and it definitely has a sense that the writers feel like, okay, you need to do strange things every now and again to keep the audience's attention, kind of like a skit or a musical number on a variety show.
Yeah, I mean, that is how it feels. But I think that almost was the direction I feel like TV wanted to try to go at one point back in the 60s. You remember like the random-ass Batman or DC Comics roast of superheroes?
Oh, yeah, totally.
And like the Justice League Variety Hour or some shit like that. I mean,
Yeah.
that I think they thought that was where TV was going. We'll have the regular show, and then we'll have this other random ass show where they do dances and skits, and they're kind of out of context from the mainstream show or the mainline show.
Well, and I could be wrong about this, but I think in general, like, variety shows probably had a somewhat similar function to reality TV shows now.
Oh yeah,
where
that's a good point.
they're a lot less like intensive to make. I mean, you still do need writers to write the jokes, and you still need a production team, and you do have to attract some celebrities, although not all celebrities. You can just use like, weird, obscure, talented people, but you need some celebrities sometimes. But it's not like the production I imagine of a variety show, although I'm sure it has its own complications. It doesn't require you like create like an immersive narrative that lasts for 30 minutes or an hour, right? Which is a kind of a challenge sometimes.
Oh yeah, exactly. And it's why they did it with so many that's why they took so many sitcoms, other shows, and made variety shows out of them in the 70s, because it was simpler.
Yeah. And that is interesting too about like is it 20 years where nostalgia is supposed to kick back in?
Usually, yeah.
I wonder if like all the 70s variety shows you're thinking of, if that's like 50s nostalgia kicking in.
Oh, yeah, that would, because that's what was on TV all the time then.
Yeah. And I mean, we do sometimes forget, like, I don't know a major narrative science fiction show before 60s Star Trek, right? I mean, there's the Twilight Zone and some other anthology shows, but those are anthology shows. There's a little different. And then there's those like afternoon serials for kids that are like, I think tended to be like 10 minutes an episode.
Yeah.
but like
Flash,
Star
like
Trek.
Flash Gordon and stuff like that.
I think they were like lower grade than that because I think Flash Gordon was more like in the film serials. I think the stuff I'm thinking about is called like Captain Cody or Captain Future, things like that.
Like on TV, yeah. Wasn't Captain Cody in the in Star Wars?
He's one of the clones, and I think the name is supposed to be an homage to like one of those. I think.
That actually explains it. I just saw the character's name one time, and I was like, why are they naming the stormtroopers now?
Well, and that's sort of what both the Clone Wars show, both the first one that the Dexter's Lab guy did, and then the later one. They're kind of going for that sort of like 10-minute adventure serial vibe of science fiction, you know?
All right, Bob. So finishing up this episode with Character of the Week, I am going with Nurse Chapel because I know Majel Barrett put in a ton of voice work on this episode. Not just for her own character, but for all the other women.
Yeah, like she's like all of the evil immortal aliens who are, you know, the succubi to our male characters. That was pretty impressive how much she had to do for this. I think she was the security officer too, right?
She was, yes, that's correct.
Yeah, my God. Poor Majel Barrett. Yeah, I'll give it to Uhura though. You know, good to have her achieving an important first in Star Trek history. Important several first, actually. Well, this has been Star Trek Lower Decks versus Filmation Star Trek. Join us next week. What's the episode for next week, man? I don't remember.
We're going to be on episode 5, but I do not know the episode for Star Trek.
But something from Lower Decks, and then a sequel to The Trouble with Tribbles. Everybody join us next week. We look forward to seeing you. We are Uncanny Treks. I am Bob in Cascadia. That's Matt in the Southland. Have a great night.
Thanks for listening.